Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show, where we go across country and travel the world with members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. Let's go. Hey, everybody. So excited because today we're going back to Steuben County. I say Steuben, but it's Steuben, like it's stupendous. Steuben is a county in upstate New York, and Dave DeGolyer comes on our show every year with IFWTWA to talk about what we can experience. And it's now 2024. We're planning our travels, and this is definitely a place to put on your radar. It's up in the Finger Lakes region of New York State. You can go to exploresteuben.com. That's STEUBEN.com. And that's all the links are in the show notes as always. But this is also going to be a destination on the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association Conference for 2024. So you can learn more if you go to IFWTWA.com. That's IFWTWA.org. So welcome back. Dave, how are you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I'm doing well. Thank you. How about yourself?
Ready to travel. We need to
Yeah,
get up to your hood. You've been on the show so many times now that
I
it's
know.
ridiculous that we have not gotten to your area. We've just gotten
We're
that
waiting
one
for
time
you.
real close.
Yeah, you
Seeing
did.
a sign is not good enough, right?
No, not usually.
Well, I know because we saw Corning. So Corning,
Yeah,
it's a town within Steuben County, right?
that's correct. Yeah, Steuben County, I mean, it is larger than Rhode Island. It's a big space. There are 60 different communities in Steuben County. And
Wow.
Corning is probably the most popular one, the most famous one because of the Museum of Glass and also Corning Incorporated, and all the glass technologies that they've been involved in over the past 150 some years.
Over the holidays, I was looking at all the posts you were doing on Facebook of Corning glass, and is was that a Christmas tree made out of glass, Corning glass,
Yeah.
blown glass balls, like literally?
So yes, so the Museum of Glass, the glass artists at the museum, over 2,000 glass ornaments, blown ornaments. They're all blown by hand, and then they were all assembled into a Christmas tree. It's pretty spectacular.
So
Yeah.
that's one thing that's definitely, if you go to Steuben County, this is a bucket list
Oh,
destination.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they historically get around 500,000 people a year visiting. It's a huge draw. It's one of the biggest draws in the state. But it's a museum, but it's not like your normal museum. And you think a museum of glass, it's probably not a safe
Don't touch
place to go,
anything.
but everything is well preserved, and but they've got 35 centuries worth of glass art and artifacts, so dating back to the time of King Tut,
No way.
and upward, showing the progress of how glass has been used in society, for art as well as functional things, and through the different cultures and ethnic
Wow.
groups, and then also a lot of the innovations. So glass technology, from light bulbs to fiber optics, all that stuff was created, here in Corning. So,
And
that we've
most
got
of
a
us
tie
know
for that.
Corning through
Yep.
Corningware, right? From
Corningware and
cooking.
Pyrex and stuff. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, cooking, and
Also,
then yeah. Wow.
yeah, I mean, Corning, the company, Corning has been involved in a lot of, again, functional, life-changing applications of with the use of glass. And then we've also got the art side of it. So at the Museum of Glass, you get a feel for technology, science, and art, and all the different applications that glass can be used for. It's pretty
Well,
awesome.
well, the arts are always playing a role in anything that's innovation. We're
Right.
in this world of change, right? Of technology. It's like, I have friends that are having careers that we didn't even know that career would even exist,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yep.
think the arts play a role in going to a museum like that where you can see historically the evolution of glass,
Right.
and just like the light bulb, all the way to, hey, let's, have some jewelry, or, hey, wine bottles, because you're
Yeah.
in the Finger Lakes
That's
district for
right.
wine. Um, I think that it's really important to go to places like that and understand the role the arts do, because it opens our mind to creativity. And that is one thing about when you travel, you're always going to take in something new, which expands our mind and soul.
Yeah.
There's the emotional feel, but
Right.
creativity is something that we actually really need. It's a necessity of
Oh, yeah.
life.
Yeah, and I mean, if you
Yeah.
go someplace and you can actually apply your own creativity to something, it just makes it for even a more meaningful experience. So, you're mentioning that, but you can go to the Museum of Glass and make glass, a souvenir to take home. There's another place in Corning called Hands On Glass Studio. It's this small studio. Most people wouldn't even know is there, but you can make appointments, go in and do workshops and glow glass, pumpkins and ornaments, as well as make paperweights and other projects. So you can kind of
Oh,
create your own keepsake from the trip to take home
oh,
with you. And it's a hands-on experience. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
we were talking about this the other day of being able to make your own snow globe. And
Hmm.
I know this sounds really weird. I don't know if we should even talk about this on a travel show, but we were talking about how burials are changing, like green
Hmm.
burials, and how people are
Yeah.
cremated and things. And we're like, didn't we make snow globes somehow, like with someone's ashes in there? I know that's not what you wanted to talk about today, but don't, in a way, it's like,
Yeah.
glass has this way of like paperweights and snow globes. They're these magical things, like again, creativity, right?
Yeah.
So I think that innovation is good, and it comes from that kind of experience. And I know so many people, you travel, you get home and you're like, you know what, I can go and do this project, or I have this light
Yeah.
bulb. Even traveling just gives you that breath of fresh air, of maybe relaxation, where your brain can actually go back to work a little bit, you know
Yeah. Well, hopefully I mean, that's part of getting away, I think, is
and having
reconnecting with
wine.
yourself, and
And
having the
wine,
wine helps.
the wine, I think wine is crucial to travel,
Hmm.
unless you don't
Yeah.
drink wine. But the wine, tell everybody about the wine region. I know that a lot of International Food Wine Travel Writers Association members are listening in, going, "Okay, I know this conference is coming. What
Yeah.
should we expect of the wine area?"
Well, I mean, the Finger Lakes has really been the reputation has been growing and growing as one of the premier wine destinations in the world. It's considered, America's leading cool climate wine region. So, because of the temperatures, you can't grow everything, but Rieslings and Pinot and Chardonnay, different types of vinifera grapes, as well as a lot of hybrid grape varieties. One of the interesting things about the region is that we really are set up for all. We're set up with the native grapes, which is how the region started, and then the hybrid grapes, which are really, eco-friendly as well as versatile. And some people are doing some really amazing things with them. And then the vinifera grapes. So we have all three types of grapes that are being used in wines. So it really meets a lot of different preferences, and palates. But the wine region started in Hammondsport, so it started in Steuben County, and the Finger Lakes is 14 counties, so it's massive. It's over 9,000 square miles. There are 11
What?
lakes. Yep, there are
How many
11.
wineries in 9,000 square miles? Like
There,
9,000 square like what?
that's a lot of mileage. Yeah, that's how big the Finger Lakes region is. There are over 140 different wineries in the region itself. And the three main lakes that the most of the wineries are on are Cayuga, Seneca, and Keuka. And Keuka is in Steuben County. That's where, like I said, the Finger Lakes wine region was started almost 200 years ago. The first winery in the region was there in 1860. It's still there. It's actually still making wine. And then, Dr. Frank's, which is one of the premier wineries in the world. They were just named a Wine Enthusiast's Top 100 Wines just a couple weeks ago for 2023. So
Wow.
they're still doing great, but they're the ones, Dr. Frank revolutionized winemaking in the whole northeastern United States, um, back in the 1950s and early 60s. And so that winery is definitely one that, the IFWTWA folks and anyone else who likes wine is going to want to, visit. But the nice thing is, not only have we started a lot of great stuff, but we're continuing to, have these exceptional winemakers. The 2022 Winery of the Year is Vice Vineyards.
Wow.
It's only 7 years old. So there's Ravines Wine Cellars, Domaine Le Sueur, Cuca Lake Vineyards, Pointe de Bluff. There's so many Heron Hill, excellent wineries, and then wineries that also have this unique history, like Bully Hill. Before we talked, I was just working on a project related to Bully Hill, and Walter Taylor was a pioneer for hybrid grapes. and kind of an irreverent genius. He was really crafty at marketing, and kind of came up against Coca-Cola and a Giant, and had some issues, which I won't get into. But he was very crafty and smart about the way he handled it, and he founded the winery called Bully Hill, which is the main concept is wine with laughter. So it's all about not taking yourself too seriously
Oh, I like
and
this.
enjoying it. Yeah. So there's a lot of really neat stories. Each of the wineries has its own little story. It has its own focus and specialty. So there's really something for everyone. That's just Cuca Lake. Like I said, there are Seneca Lake and Cayuga Lake also have lots of wineries. Seneca Lake has over 50 wineries around it and 30 on the Seneca Wine Trail. So Herman
Wow.
Weimer, and there's just a lot of really great wineries in the region.
And this, you're so close to Canada too, in a way, right?
Yeah, we're about 3.5, 4 hours from Canada. Yeah.
Wow. And so the one thing about where you are, you're talking about this history, which is so amazing. And you think about Corning, you think about these wineries that were, historic, and
Yes.
that you're keeping this progression now, but you also brought up the word eco-friendly, which is something I wanted
Yeah.
to touch on. As a destination, do you see any focus happening with that in regards to the lodging, the restaurants, the parks, that people are looking at sustainability?
Yeah. I mean, and not sure I'm well versed enough to speak to that, you know, collectively. But yes, so a number of the wineries, uh, a lot of the businesses in the region are that's a catchword that a lot of people are using, and it's certainly an intention that a lot of people have.
Mm-hmm.
Heron Hill, for example, has been that way since they started, several, 3 decades ago or whatever. So some of them have been doing that right from the start. Some of them are kind of coming around to, different practices for that purpose, sustainability. And
Mm,
it goes, like you said, the restaurants as well, and it also goes along with being an agricultural area where, we have, like the Park Inn, does a lot of farm to table. So they created their own farm so they could grow their
mm,
own produce and, actually,
that's awesome.
sustain themselves. So there's a different kind of, sustainability there. But yeah,
Well, that's nice when you have this agriculture, but it's such small town too. I think
yeah,
you have these smaller communities where that is sustainability, where you're also supporting small business. As
right.
travelers, when you can do what you can with small business, I think you are part that of that solution. Let's put it
Yeah,
that way, environmentally, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, for
Mm,
sure. And I mean, the thing, a lot of one of the most rewarding things of working in my job in such small communities is the way they support each other, the small businesses. The wineries support each other. We've got wineries who work with local bakers and local chefs and
mm,
create these, food pairings and different offerings. So they're supporting each other, and
that's cool.
they really, yeah. I mean, and it's a genuine appreciation for what the other people are doing,
Mm,
as well as obviously that giving back and sharing with the community, and you're
mhm.
supporting them, they're supporting you. It's a really uh, really mutually beneficial relationship, that quite a few of them are adopting, and it's fun to watch.
I think it's cool. I mean, to
Yeah.
me, when you go to a small restaurant, a lot of times I'll go, oh, well, the chocolate on this dessert comes from around the corner. My friend over here is a chocolatier, and why
Yeah.
why should I make chocolate from scratch when they're doing it?
Right. Yep.
So I love that. And oh, well, you got chocolate. I know you do. I know you have ice
Yeah.
cream. I brought that up on a show previously. I'm like,
Yep.
dudes, I heard that you got to go for good hamburgers and good ice cream. I
Yep.
remember that from last year's chat. Like,
Yeah,
ice cream
great
is a big
hamburgers,
deal.
great ice cream. Yeah, and we have,
Great
I mean, there's a
wine, you know.
chocolate maker in Corning who makes some really good chocolate. Yeah, I mean, there,
Am I
and
going to
we,
bring up anything? You're just going to go, yeah, well, we have this too.
yeah, we have that. Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have everything. And it really depends on what your interests are. That photo behind you, there's the outdoors is another,
Mm,
exceptional draw here in the region that a lot of people don't think about. But I mean, obviously, Finger Lakes, in the name, it's built right in the name. So, we have those
Right.
lakes that are spectacular, and a lot of ways to get out on them. You can rent equipment, so you don't have to have your own stuff. You can rent kayaks and paddle boards and
Cool.
pontoon boats and all that stuff. You can fish. But then there are, other outdoor recreation, like behind you is Spencer Crest Nature Center, which is 5 minutes from downtown Corning. It's on the top of a hill. It's 7 miles of
Wow.
hiking trails. And as you can see, that beautiful pond behind you, there's a nice area to
Yeah.
picnic and stuff like that. It's just, you
You
want a
must
little
have
time
good
to kind
bird
of get
watching.
out.
You've
There's a
got to
lot of
have
bird
good,
watching. Yeah.
yeah, with all the, the water areas and
Mhm.
trees,
Yep.
you've got to be like a destination for birders to come out.
Yeah, I mean there are quite a few places that do focus on that. There's groups that do birding and stuff like that here. I am not versed enough in the specific types of birds. I mean I've seen great blue heron and bald eagles and all sorts of
Oh,
birds,
nice.
but that's out of my normal
Yeah. All I
domain.
know is when I
And
hear peck, 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 it's a woodpecker.
yeah, that's right,
There
right.
it is. Woody
Yeah,
woodpeckers out there somewhere. I don't know which one it is, but is it
yeah,
small?
yeah.
But it's cool
Hmm.
to have that in the nature. And I remember also before talking with you about waterfalls, because
Yeah,
that's how many people travel chasing what they're waterfall chasers, like
right.
literally.
Yeah.
So you've got a few.
We do. Steuben County has some in Stony Brook State Park, but I mean we're Watkins Glen State Park is 30 minutes from Corning. They have 19 different waterfalls through the gorge. It is just breathtaking. It was named, I think number 3 state park in the country a couple years ago.
Wow.
Letchworth State Park, which was named number 1 in the country. That's probably about 50 minutes from Corning, 50 to 60 minutes. So it's an hour, within an hour, you can get
I
to Letchworth, which is massive. I mean, there are multiple waterfalls. You can get right up close to some of them, like as close as you could get to that pond almost. Others you can't get quite as close to, but they're big. There's so many different hiking paths. And then, Ithaca, which is about 45 minutes from here, is known for their gorges and their waterfalls there.
mm,
Keuka Outlet Trail is a very accessible, pretty flat 7 mile trail on the northern end of Keuka Lake. And you've got a couple different waterfalls that are actually in kind of like ruins of old mills, from historic buildings that have fallen into they're not being used anymore, but except that they're now the streams passing through, and there's making these
wow.
pretty neat. Yeah, it's almost like going to like something off a movie set, where there's the remains of a building and then the stream passing through. It's pretty
Well,
neat.
that's pretty. That's
Yeah,
pretty. Well, with all these waterfalls, do you guys get frozen waterfalls up there? Because I know you get a lot of snow. So I
yep,
mean, and during the snow season, I know you're having fun, but you have to kind of remind yourself, we're going through this so we can have this for spring and summer,
yeah.
right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're in the southern part of the Finger Lakes. Steuben County is so. You know, while you see 3 feet of snowfall maybe in Buffalo,
Yeah.
in the northern stretches of the state, we when they're getting that, we might be getting 8 inches. So it's not like
Oh, okay.
we don't normally get the multiple feet of snow every winter. Now, back 40 years ago we did, but today it's a little milder. But there is snowshoeing and cross country skiing and stuff here. Um,
Mm,
but yes, it does get cold, however, sometimes, and we do get frozen waterfalls. So,
cool.
places like Stony Brook and Watkins Glen and Tacanic Falls, which is out by Ithaca. Some of the waterfalls you can't go on the gorge trails in the wintertime just because it's too dangerous. But you can still do the rim trails and see the falls. So there are opportunities to see that. Um,
Did you say Tunkhannock?
Titanic, yep.
So near like what, Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania? Like near there?
No, it's
Two
out by
separate things?
Ithaca, New York. Yep.
Oh, wow. Because I was thinking, because we were upstate Pennsylvania and we could cross
Mhm.
into New York State from there. So that's why I was wondering. Don't ask me about where we were. It was the middle of
Mhm.
nowhere. So that's why I was going, no way. But it was really charming. It was close
Yeah,
to Scranton, I think. Scranton,
Scranton.
Pennsylvania. Scranton. There you go. Thank
Mhm.
you. I need you on the
Yep.
show.
So, you know, that TV show, The Office, was set, fictional Office was set in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
No
Yep.
way.
Yep.
Wow. That's why I know it then, huh? Duh.
Yep.
I should have gone and like knocked on their door. That would have been fun. It would have been fun. But but that's the people traveling to, are you getting from, I know obviously around the world and everything,
Yeah.
especially having Corning in the Finger Lakes, but
Mhm.
do a lot of people come from places like Pennsylvania, New York
Yeah.
City, Canada, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, we're first and foremost, we're a drive destination. We are comprised of, like I said, you know, just Steuben County, 60 communities. There are a lot of
Mhm.
small rural towns that are
Mm.
probably 15 to half an hour, 15 minutes to half an hour apart. So driving is the best way to get here, and then to actually get around. So, like I said, you can come to Corning and pretty much see the whole Finger Lakes region. You know, you can go to Letchworth and you can go to Watkins Glen State
Mhm.
Park and you can go, you know, to all these different places. They're all
Okay.
within a drive from here. But
Okay.
so people have come from, you know, New York City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, you know, Boston, Cleveland. But we get a lot from Pennsylvania. Yeah, for sure. We get a lot from like Wilkes-Barre and Scranton and,
Mm.
you know, Harrisburg and again, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh,
It's
that,
not Wilkes-Barre. Did you say Wilkes-Barre? It's Wilkes-Barre.
yeah, that place.
Wilkes-Barre.
Wilkes-Barre.
I can't
That's like saying
pronounce
Skinny Atlas
anything.
and spelling it. You know, it's
This,
like, yeah.
yeah, don't, you should hear how we pronounce the country as we travel through. We're like, there's just certain, what? It's like we're going to that place.
Yeah,
But that you learn once you get there. And that's the thing
that's
is
correct.
once you get somewhere, it gets under your skin. What about lodging? I want to talk about that because with
Mm,
having all these smaller communities, I'm thinking you've got to have some unique Airbnb,
mhm.
VRBO, like vacation rentals, let's just say, but also historic inns and historic
Yeah.
hotels, being bed and
Yep.
breakfast.
Yeah, I mean, all of that. We have, you know, we have the traditional chain hotels
Sure.
in many of the communities, but we have a lot of bed and breakfast. You know, the traditional bed and breakfast, not the
Mm.
well, in addition to Airbnbs and VRBOs, we have a lot of the, you know, small town, rural, old school B&Bs that, you know, they serve breakfast in the morning and you get to actually interact with people, you know, and that's kind of a neat
That's
way of
cool.
traveling. Learning a little bit about the area from them. They're your concierge, you know, they're your
Mm.
suggestion box. They provide a lot of input on, you know, different things to experience, and you get
Mm.
they're ambassadors for the area. So that's a lot of fun. Some of them are in historic buildings. You know, there's one called the Black Sheep Inn
Hmm.
in Hammondsport that's a historic octagonal home that was renovated over several years. Stunning, you know.
Mm.
And then there are little places, you know, right down by Cuca Lake. So like Blushing Rose is, I think they have 4 rooms, you know, right down like half a block from the lake.
What
So,
a name though. That's
yeah,
beautiful. Blushing Rose.
yeah,
Yeah. That's well, this brings up weddings. I know
yeah.
like bed and breakfast during COVID, right? The main part of COVID. And they became like destinations for elopements and small weddings, and they would do
Hmm.
Zoom weddings, but the couple and the immediate
Yeah.
family being there. So do you have that kind of, set up for, I can imagine with all the wineries, you have winery weddings and just kind of like a romantic escape. I'm just saying because January is wedding month, I believe. And,
Wow.
Valentine's is coming up. And,
Yeah.
I know I don't know if people can even get reservations, but for Valentine's already might be too late for everywhere. But
No, I
um,
think you can.
do
Yeah.
try. But I mean, is this a romantic? I mean, I would think so, like a waterfall
Yeah.
wedding, winery wedding, B
Well, I
and B.
mean, you know, we
I'm
have
not getting married though, but just
uh well,
you know,
the you can still go to the weddings, right? The
yeah, yeah. And I like
you
going
know, a
to
lot of the
weddings; those are
wineries
fun.
are they're around the lake, so you're talking about just breathtaking. The scenery is spectacular and very stunning. So you know, wineries are a popular place for that type of thing. You know, since the pandemic, we had some wineries that were huge and you know did huge wedding, you know, a few hundred
Oh yeah, because
people,
the
and
outdoors,
but
yeah.
um, but since the pandemic, that's changed a little bit, and they're more for elopements, like you said. They're more for like the micro weddings where it's not necessarily hundreds of people, but maybe a small group getting together of your close friends, and you come and you go. And the nice thing about that is you go to a few wineries and do some tastings, and then you have great food, you got the views. There's ways to get out on the lake. Like I said, there's a historic boat that has been renovated. Over 16,000 hours were put in to restore this wooden
Wow.
boat. So you can take a tour on Cuba Lake, up, like 16 people. So you can get your wedding party or your group on there and go out and explore a little bit.
Mm.
B&Bs, obviously they're smaller, so you can do some smaller things. That's where the wedding party might stay, that sort of thing. But there are also going back to the Airbnb, VRBO, there are some vacation rental properties that do weddings. That they've kind of during the pandemic kind of taken over some of that. So there are a couple places that do they'll do a little bit larger scale weddings. And there's some that, overlook the valley. There's some that are overlooking the vineyards and the wineries. So there are quite a few different options depending upon what you're looking for, whether it's, the elopement or even the
Mm.
proposal. A lot of people come here and do the proposal, experience here. They come with some friends and they go to a winery or whatever and have a, just beautiful time. And then, take advantage of that romantic atmosphere, and make
Wow.
that part of the experience. So there's a lot of different ways to tie it in. It is a very romantic area, in part because we have the beautiful nature. So
Mm.
you've got something for all the senses. You've got the wine and the food for the tastes and the smells. You've got the outdoor experiences, and it's a good time.
I love it. I think, weddings, like you were saying,
Yeah.
it they have kind of gotten smaller across the board, I think, just around the country and around the world. But people are looking at, I think it changed how weddings are done, where they're
Yeah.
smaller, but there's more activities and more of an experience. And then
Right.
the couple getting married, their money goes into, oh yeah, buying a house and travel more. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, I don't know, it's changed a little bit, and I'm kind of more, I think it's I don't know, better in a way because it's more sustainable for the
Yeah.
environment. It's kind of a manageable thing. Whereas weddings, people get all hyper, man. You don't want to get all hyper and fussed out just because there an extra rose wasn't on the wedding cake. Get on with it. You know what I mean? It's
Well,
it's supposed to be joyous. The
yes,
weddings are a joyous, celebration of love. And there's still definitely the big weddings for people who want
yeah.
them, and I'm not knocking that whatsoever. But we are seeing more of these smaller things built in with more activities, like you're saying, hey, let's,
Yeah.
get on the boat. I mean, that's going to be memorable. And I think
Yeah.
people are, whether you're traveling or going to even a group function, I don't know if you do a lot of groups out there. I would
Mhm.
think so. If you're going to have a
Yeah.
business function, you better include wine and, you know, take a
Right.
walk in between meetings.
Well, and I mean, there's, yeah, and again, the wineries you mentioned, the experiences have changed not just for weddings, but for everything really.
Yeah.
But a lot of the wineries used to take, and some of them do still take the group, so they'll take the motor coach, with 55 people. Some of them will still do that. But a lot of the ones who did before, once the pandemic hit and they had to change kind of the model of how they were doing it, it was more about the experience. It was more about sitting down and interacting with the guest and, maybe having food pairings and different types of experiences. But the guests seemed to like that better because all of a sudden it wasn't about just getting into as many places. It was about
Mm.
being there, learning about it, and really enjoying it. And then the winery folks are like, wow, we really like this too. It's so much more intimate and personal. And there's really a genuine connection that everybody makes. The winery
Mm-hmm.
folks, whether it's the winemaker, the owners, the staff with the guest, and vice versa, they feel a connection. So we see a lot of those people keep coming back. A lot of those people, when they go, they really, they might not go to six wineries, they might go to two, but they really have this great experience at these
Mm-hmm.
couple wineries. And, they take that home with them, not just the wine, but the actual
Yeah.
experience.
It's
Um,
not just a blur. When you go through six
no,
wineries, it's a blur.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, but and there's a different intention, there, but there's also a different just the experience itself is different.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's something to be said to try for trying as many things as you can, but at the same time, it's like if you make it a quality experience where you're really immersing
Mm.
yourself,
You're making
and you go to two
memories.
and you go 2 to 3 places, yeah, you're making memory, you're learning something,
Mhm.
not just about the wine, but about yourself too, because you're learning about what things you like and what things you don't. um,
Mhm.
you know Pairing food with wine, a lot of people don't think about it, but it makes a huge difference on the wine and the food, and it
Mhm.
gives you an opportunity to go home and say, hey, try this, and your friends are like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's amazing, I never even thought about that. So it's kind of
Yeah.
fun. It's fun. You get to share some secrets and learn some things that you can take home.
And it's a great way for people to learn about wine if they didn't know about wine yet. If they're
Yeah,
not, and it's like, okay, well, I don't know. And you've got your friends. Well, like, hey, just see what you like. It's no one's right,
right.
no one's wrong. Just like art, right? You go to a
Yep.
art show and look at a piece of art or you read, a book or something. That's your own thing, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. But to go with friends is always cool. Kind of have a conversation about a painting or maybe see a demonstration. But I'm going to imagine you guys have the arts thriving because you're in such a
Oh yeah.
beautiful region and you have
Mhm.
wine. All of that to me equals art.
Yeah, and it goes back to the creativity and the innovation too.
Right.
But yeah, art is huge here, and not just Corning, obviously, because the Corning Museum of Glass is a world-class museum, but half a mile from there is another world-class museum that most people that you wouldn't expect to go to a town of 11,000 people and find these two museums that you might expect to find in Manhattan or some big city.
Yeah.
The Rockwell Museum, which is a
What?
museum that focuses on not Norman Rockwell, named after the founders, who were some philanthropists in Corning, Bob and Hertha Rockwell. But they started with this collection of Western and Native American art. I mean, a remarkable collection of, Remington statues. They had a
Oh,
department store in
wow.
Corning at one time. And in the department store, you could be trying on jeans and looking at a Remington statue. And,
Next thing you
so
know, I
they
want
had,
chaps, you know?
yeah, you right. But you had this world-class art on display in the department store because they wanted to share their love of art with the community. And then they had an opportunity to take their collection and put it in a building, which is now, the Rockwell Museum. And it's a beautiful building. It's a small museum, so it take you about an hour to walk through the whole thing, taking your time. But you've got art. It's really the focus changed. It's now a Smithsonian affiliate. I think it's the only upstate New York a Smithsonian affiliate, but it's art about America. So basically, it's art that tells the story of the American experience. And some of it's Western and Native American because that's what they started with, but they have all these different exhibits now that are focusing on different cultures and different stories. It's really a remarkable museum that people are like blown away when they find it because it's very unexpected, especially in upstate New York, which is kind
Oh,
of like, down the road, there's a bison ranch. They don't expect to find that either.
no, no, I don't.
Right.
It's like when we were in Seneca Falls, which I don't think is far
Yeah.
from you, right?
Not far.
Um,
No.
and there's a wildlife refuge out there,
Mhm.
Montezuma, I think it was
Yeah.
called. Yeah, which I didn't expect that name. And we go in, we're like, we were there at dawn,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden there's this giant bald eagle sculpture,
Hmm.
like giant with his wings like me, and we're like, what is and you're on the side. It was unexpected, and
Yeah.
it's blazed in my soul now, this
Right.
the sculpture and just this unexpected wildlife refuge that we just didn't expect and know. And I can't talk about strongly enough about the beauty of your region,
Mhm.
what little bit
Thank you.
we saw.
Yeah.
um there's a reverence for nature and history that go hand in
Hmm.
hand that is
Yep.
so strong. And history, I mean, you are in a very, things went down in your region. I mean,
They did. They
and
did.
so you've got to have for the historian and the history
Yeah.
enthusiast museums, beside the arts, that they
Yep.
can go to as well to learn about the locals and maybe even dig up their family history. Not with the snow globe I was talking about before.
No.
you know?
No, but yeah, I mean,
No.
a lot of history happened here. I mentioned, Thomas Edison when he developed his incandescent lamp.
Yeah.
Corning made the glass that hold the filament. So they made the first light bulbs. So there's that. So I mean, some of the local history is connected to the world history. Glenn Curtis, we go back to Hammondsport, that small town. He was a pioneer of aviation. So there's a museum dedicated to
Wow.
him. He was, one of the first motorcycle manufacturers, and then he became an aviation pioneer along the same time period as the Wright brothers. Had
Wow.
the first public flight in America, so he actually invited people to come and see that flying was a real thing and not just this story that people were talking about. Because the Wright brothers did everything privately.
Hmm.
So he invited the public to come, and he did a lot of things, a lot of innovations that impacted, aviation, early aviation before World War One. Worked with Alexander Graham Bell, trying to develop, the best planes, that they could at the time. So that again is this local history that's connected to the world. So a lot of people who travel, some of the things that he came up with and or had part in have contributed to air travel. He did the first
Mm.
long distance flight in the country from Albany down the Hudson River to Manhattan. He
Wow.
won the first aeronautical prize in the country, had the first pilot's license in the country, and he's someone most people have never heard of. He also developed seaplanes and the flying boat. So, you expect to see those in like Alaska and places, but he developed them right on Keuka Lake. So there's
Dude.
actually in September every
Yeah.
year, there's a seaplane homecoming. So they have, seaplanes fly in, and it's kind of like a car show, but with seaplanes, and they're doing little tricks and stuff like that. It's pretty fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You got to think that that ended up in World War II history too, because of when we got the Air Force.
Yeah.
The Air Force came
Well,
from, yeah, I mean,
he
the Yale students started that,
he's the
the
father of naval aviation. So he started a school out in San Diego for the Navy
that's why I know his
training
name.
pilots. He
Ah.
Yeah, there's a community out there, Coronado, I guess,
Hmm.
which is related to his work actually, but he's from Hammondsport, and
Wow.
so yeah,
Two
it's
opposite ends of the country.
yep,
Yeah, no, San Diego's where we started our magazine back in the day in print,
yeah,
like San Diego. And I'm like, I know this name. I know this name you're talking about.
yep,
Now I get it. But yeah, you got to think, everything starts somewhere. And,
yeah,
you know, but just going to communities, we're seeing more and more travelers. It's like heritage travel. They're traveling to, find their family roots and
hmm,
ancestry,
yeah,
and going to
that's neat.
communities and being able to be, maybe it's a cemetery, going to a museum, maybe seeing this, when you have historic villages and communities like yours, sometimes those buildings are still there.
Hmm.
Whereas in sometimes, if you're in Vegas, they imploded your casino. But
Right,
you know what I mean? So people can
yeah,
actually go where their ancestors were, which is
yep,
that, talk about a memorable experience. That's, you can't even put words on. It's price, like it's just
yeah,
that connection is huge. So I would think with all these communities connected, that it's going to be part and parcel. And then go have a good burger and a bottle of wine and some ice cream. You're good. Maybe go for a
right,
bicycle ride, because I know you're big on cycling too. Is
yeah,
another thing I wanted to touch on before you go. That cycling is big for your
yeah.
area too.
Yeah, it's big and it's growing. We've got a gravel race coming up in June, called the Keuka Gravel Classic. But there are several races. There's mountain biking, just leisure cycling, a lot
Mm.
of country roads and byways and stuff like that. So a lot of ways for people to get out and enjoy the countryside, on a bicycle or around town. Just riding around those little towns. It's kind of fun. Um,
Oh,
but yeah,
very cool.
it's a lot of fun.
Well, everyone, there's a lot to do. So 2024 is the year
Yeah,
of
we look.
exploring Steuben. So it's
Yeah,
exploresteuben.com is the website to go to. And for our friends over at the International Food One Travel Writers Association that we do this show with every month, definitely go to the website and start making plans to be part of the conference, because
yeah, we look
there'll
forward
be
to having you.
wine being poured, there'll be glass blowing, glass
Yep.
making.
hamburgers more than hamburgers
Hamburgers.
because they have farm to table food.
Yeah.
It's going to be quite an experience, and that really showcases the ability of having groups of people come to the area too. And I think
Yeah.
that's going to be super fun. And so everyone explore Steuben.com, and that's Steuben. Thank you so much, Dave. It's always a
Thank you.
pleasure
Great to
having
see
you
you.
on the show.
It's nice
Thanks,
to be on
thanks
it.
for the history lesson too.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.